What's going on, Anime Society? Welcome back to another podcast episode from your boys Hunter and Jonah. We're looking forward to getting into a great topic this week, something that we've been really looking forward to bringing to you guys. Just to be clear, there might possibly be a little spoilers in this, just if we do go into detail on this topic. So we're going to go ahead and let that be known now. Also,
There will be spoilers.
yes, so there will be spoilers.
We might as well just say it straight. There will be spoilers.
All right, there will be spoilers, but I also want to say this as well. A huge thank you to the responses that we've got from the first two episodes. We really appreciate it, really, truly, from the bottom of our heart. It is exceeding expectations, and we look forward to bringing you more episodes going forward. I think Jonah would like to probably thank you as well.
For sure. No, we've been very surprised at the support that we've received so far. So thank you, one and all, for your feedback, for your likes, for your comments, for all of the support that you showed us. We're definitely feeling the love. And just want to say, don't be afraid. Share it with your friends, share it with anyone you think might be interested. We want to build this thing up and continue to improve. So, yeah.
And with that, Jonah, let's jump into today's topic. So tell the people what the topic is.
The topic today is what makes a great anime villain. And me, I love this topic because villains, more times than not, are my favorite characters in series. I tend to prefer the psychotic villains than I do, the good-natured protagonists. Call me crazy, but a great anime villain can make or break a series, in
You
my
love
opinion.
villains? Oh my god, do I need to call like Utah Police Department? Jonah,
Dude, come on. Let's think about it, though. I
are
mean,
you plotting
if
something
you
on
watch
me?
if you watch The Dark Knight, who really likes Batman more than they like Joker? Come on.
Okay. You've twisted my arm enough. All you have to do is bring in the Heath Ledger's Joker, and you've got
I
me.
think everybody knows. I mean, villains are just better. They're just better.
I think villains can bring more depth than some characters if that's what the writer is intending. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some main characters that have a lot of depth to them and that they might give them more backstory. But the villains, usually their backstory is something that is a lot more intriguing than the protagonist. So I get what you're saying.
Definitely. And I think they play a vital role in the story. I mean, we talked about how I think it was in episode 1 about how in a lot of anime there's this idea of the protagonist, overcoming hurdles
Yeah.
and improving, over beating the odds, etc. And villains, provide those hurdles. And so even though I like villains more than I like protagonists most of the time, I don't find myself necessarily rooting for the villain. Like, it's not like I want
Hmm.
the villain to win. I think that
Right.
they're cooler. It's not like I agree totally with their ideology or whatever, and we're gonna get into that later. But it is awesome to see a great anime villain that clashes with the protagonist not only physically but emotionally, psychologically, etc., and then have the protagonist overcome that and continue on their journey and surmount that. Which, in my opinion, that's what makes anime great.
Yeah, I think it is too, and obviously we can just go ahead and delve right in. So again, the topic that we're going to just really be speaking on, and try and keep it as fluent as we can without it seeming listy, though, is basically what we believe makes a great villain in anime. What are the characteristics? What is it that draws people to say, when you ask them what's your favorite villain in anime, like, why? And then when you have to go in deeper and say, well, why? These are what we think really make the best villains in anime. And I think me and you both can agree with this first one. I think we both had it down when we were talking about it, a little bit on the pre-show that we were doing. Their backstory. Their backstory
Right.
can be so intriguing and it can be so compelling, and I think that's something that movies do, or they're starting to do a little bit better as they're not afraid to make like 3-hour movies anymore. But they'll give
Yeah.
you more in-depth backstory on the villains, and you really get to see why their mind is how it is. I think truly backstory might be one of the core components when making up a villain.
Oh, definitely. I think that a villain without a backstory is makes that villain's motives and their actions pretty watered down, you know?
Yeah.
Like for me, what makes a great anime villain is when their backstory, life events, or even just their ideology that normally stems from their backstory,
Hmm.
when those are things that almost make you empathize and to a certain extent agree, or you at least see where the villain is coming from.
Yeah.
um, that to me just takes them to another plane, because then you find yourself in this battle. You're like, well, I don't necessarily agree with what they're saying, but I understand why they're saying it. I can totally get how they got to that point, that way of thinking, even if I don't necessarily agree or think that it's right.
Yeah, and it's also one of those things as well where since it is anime and it is animated in the same, you could say the same thing about manga since it is manga and it is obviously drawn out. When you are able to not just read about it but see it, and then bring the backstory to life and the actions that he had to go through, or he or she, which if it is a villain, what they had to go through, and just try and play that out and give details. I mean, sure, it's one thing for someone to be like, oh, did you hear about this villain? Yeah, I heard this and this about his backstory, and then like they don't go in depth about it at all. But the anime that do go in depth about it, they give you the flashbacks. They give you maybe kind of like what keeps him up at night and what makes him tick. I think that's the best part about the villains in anime.
Definitely. I mean, my favorite villain of all time in any series is Don Quixote do Flamingo from One Piece. And at his core, he's like evil incarnate. I mean, the dude
Hmm.
is like 100% corrupted and evil, but you get his backstory and you learn that he was once regarded as a god. And at the young age of, I don't think it tells you exactly how old he was, like 6 or 8 years old,
Right.
um, he all of a sudden goes down and joins the world and is beaten, is shot with arrows, is his mom dies. He's met with sickness and all these other things, and it totally warps his perception of the world, to where then when later on when you encounter him as a villain, his pirate crew he calls his family, because to him his family are the people that he can trust and that have been with him and not
Yes.
sought to hurt him. And so he has this like warped perspective where he will justify any evil as long as it's for the sake of protecting his family
Hmm.
and ripping down the framework of the world that caused him to suffer so much as a child.
Yeah,
And
it's. I think the more tragic the backstory is, the more you can. I don't want to say you can kind of empathize with them, but at the same time, like obviously none of us that are watching have ever experienced it, but you can show empathy towards them. Like in Doflamingo's case, like you said, he was once revered as a god. His family was revered as gods. If I'm not mistaken, they were celestial dragons. We're talking about One
yeah,
Piece, right? Yeah.
yeah.
They were celestial dragons, which are considered the highest of the highs. Yes, spoiler alert for those of you that have not seen or watched One Piece. But that fall from greatness could be anybody's motive to hate the world, to have such animosity against the world. And I know exactly why he disliked, or why he basically claims everybody else as his family, because, he thought it was his father's fault that they even fell from such royalty. So he had
Right,
such disdain for his family that
right.
whoever he could wrap his arms around and claim, like you said, claim that are trustworthy, that would become his family, because he lost trust within his own family. So I'm just harping home that I think the more tragic it is, I think sometimes the better the villain becomes, because
Definitely.
he's got a little bit of something extra to prove, and something extra that motivates him. And I think that's something else that we can just scroll on into as well, going on with me saying what what he's motivated by and what he's aiming for, and that goes with he's got to have the villain, he or she has got to have a great master plan. It's got to be
Right.
it's got to be smart. It needs to be
Right.
minute and detailed. It can't just be like I used this example earlier. It can't just be, hey Timmy, I'm gonna steal your lunch money every day. Like
Right.
it
Right.
can't be something like that. Like it has to be, and even something, it's as cliche as saying I'm gonna take over the world. Well, tell me how you're gonna do it. Show,
Right.
like, be, yeah, what is it? The old Pinky and the Brain saying, "What are we gonna do today, Brain? Same thing we do or Pinky, yeah, Pinky said that to Brain, and Brain said same thing we do every day. Pinky, try and take over the world. Well, show me how you're gonna do it. Like, lay out the detailed
Yeah.
plan and let me see the motions come into like fruition. And
Yeah.
I think the plan has to be great.
It's like take this for example. I feel like a lot of people are familiar with the Pokemon games. Take
Yeah.
like Gen 5 with Team Plasma or even Gen 4 with Team Galactic.
Hmm.
Like those two, they actually had goals, like their
Yeah.
master plan made sense. And then you look at like Team
Gen
Aqua
3.
and Team Magma in
Yeah.
Gen 3, and they're like, oh, Team Aqua's like, I want the whole world to be underwater. And you're like, why?
Yeah.
Everyone would die. Why would you want that? And then Team Magma is like, I want the whole world to be land. And that
Hmm.
makes no sense. It's a horrendous master plan. It doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense for anyone. Why would you even want that? And so to your point, like their master plan has to make sense. It has
Yeah.
to be somewhat explicit. It can't just be, I'm going to take over the world. Why? I don't know. I want to. Or I'm going to take over the world. Well, how are you going to do it? I don't know. I'm just going to try. It has to be somewhat explicit and well thought out.
Hmm.
And going along with that, one of the things that bothers me the most with certain villains is when, for no reason whatsoever, they reveal their entire master plan to the protagonist and his like squad. It's
Yeah.
like why would you do that? Don't
Good.
don't reveal your
Good
master
luck
plan.
stopping me conquering all 7 continents. And how I'm going to do it is first by taking over your own country. It's like, oh,
Right.
why did you tell them that? Like, now you've basically given them a head start on what they need to stop. Like, no. Work in
Right.
secret, dude. Keep your circle close and keep them all to yourself, man. Like,
Exactly.
I know you're proud of your plans, but you don't have to plankton it and basically say everything that you're doing, give it away.
Yeah. Right. You can't just be in, like, what is the point of devising this crazy master plan if you just reveal it to the first person that you're talking to? Then it all goes to crap. All it takes is that one person to escape, tell someone about it, and then the whole thing is ruined and all your work is not.
I think,
So
yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say, I think sometimes to go with that, don't. Why would you just tell it to the first person that you see? I think sometimes in anime, when they do okay, this is the plan, but that's like what he wants you to see. Like that's what he wants you to think the plan is, and then there's an underlying a goal that he's trying to achieve. So I think that's really cool. Where like, so I can't think of an anime villain just off the top of my head that would do this. But say there is a goal, and that's what he's telling all his underlings. But in the back of his mind, that's just what he wants them to think the goal is. I know what it is.
right,
You could look at the Madara and what he told Obito. Basically,
right,
he told Obito what he wanted Obito to think.
right.
And he had an underlying plan for when Obito fulfilled what Madara told Obito to do. So I think like when you get kind of a plan within a plan, oh, that's sick.
Right. Or like the example that came to my head as you were talking was, and naturally my brain's gonna think about One Piece,
Which is
and it
fine.
like
I
first
try.
thing just
I
because it's
know.
my favorite title ever.
Yeah, I
But
just
like,
tried to keep that as spoiler free as possible because
right.
I could have done a huge spoiler for that whole series, but
And I guess like, I mean, is it really spoilers if it's been animated? Like normally I feel like spoilers are like stuff that's only in the manga where the
yeah, I
anime hasn't
know,
got
but
to it yet.
but
But
if
I do understand, like
yeah,
people who are first watching, like you don't want.
right,
But
right,
okay, take for example though, take like Crocodile in One
yes,
Piece. Like he's telling everyone that like his cronies, right? The people of Alabasta. He's telling them, hey, like my goal is to take over Alabasta, essentially, become its king.
Right.
And then you would think that the plan would end there.
Hmm.
But in reality, the only reason why he wanted to take over Alabasta was so that he could get access to an ancient weapon, Pluton, and take over the whole world. So his goal was a lot bigger than what he was leading on with people. And even his like most trusted associates in his, evil crime syndicate that were kept,
Yeah.
secret from the people of Alabasta, even they didn't know what his end
Hmm.
game was. He
Yeah.
kept that all to himself and didn't reveal it to even his like right hand man. And if
Right.
you do it like that, it makes sense. That's fine with me. Or like you said earlier, telling someone a false plan
Hmm.
just so that you can go back and get them in a trap or something. That's
Yeah.
cool. I just don't like when villains tell their actual plan right from the get go. You're like, okay, well, that was stupid.
Yeah. Kind of like you could almost say the homunculus in
Right.
when you're looking at Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. The homunculus had a goal, and that was to gain a human body. And so, what did he tell? What did he tell Alphonse's and his brother's father? Why did his name? Why did his name?
Owenheim?
Yeah, Hohenheim. Yeah, why did he tell Hohenheim basically everything that he did only to have it set up to where he was going to massacre everybody so he could gain his body. So
Right.
it's the complexity of it that makes it more interesting.
Right. And I think that brings us to another point that I think makes a great anime villain. You can't have a stupid anime villain. Like like a great anime villain can't be all brawn and no brains,
Yeah,
in
you
my
want to know
opinion.
who's a bad anime villain because he is stupid? It was Buggy.
Yeah, but yeah, he's an idiot.
He was an idiot. He was an
He's an
idiot.
idiot. Right, right.
Buggy from One
Or
Piece. For those of you that don't know, he's in One Piece. He's an idiot, and he is not
right.
remembered.
Yeah, just people like that where there's like absolutely no plan. It's just like, I'm just gonna do what I do because that's what I do. It's like, okay, well, if you actually want to get something done,
Yeah.
that can't be the way that you think. It's one of the reasons why, like, I'm not I'm not a huge fan of Shigaraki from My Hero Academia.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's okay, but when I think about someone like Stain or Chizaki from My Hero Academia, like they're way better because their ideology makes sense. It's not like this 2-year-old mindset of I want to destroy everything just for the sake of destroying everything. There's actually, a reason for their actions.
Yeah,
And then
kind of
on top of
like
that,
I was just gonna say one of
sorry, go
the
ahead.
no, I was just gonna say one of the one of the smarter anime villains I can think of off the top of my head is Aizen from Bleach.
Right, yeah.
He's actually almost 1 to 2 steps ahead of everybody. It seemed like throughout the whole
Yeah,
show.
incredibly smart. And like the example I think of Chizaki in My Hero Academia is a good one because you like he meets with Shigaraki right before
Right.
everything happens in this latest season, and he tells like when they meet, Shigaraki's like, well, this is what I want to do. Like I want to like tear down the hero society. I want to destroy the world. And Chizaki's like, okay, well, how are you going to do it? And Shigaraki's kind of like, I don't know. I'm just going to destroy things that I don't like.
Yeah,
And
it's just
Chizaki's like,
dumb.
that's pointless. If you don't have a plan, then there's no point in me meeting with you. Like
Mhm.
you have to have some kind of plan or way of achieving your goal. If it's just a goal and you don't have any kind of even like the skeleton framework of how you're going to accomplish it, it's not worth my time. You know?
Yeah, yeah. They have to be smart, and they have to be able to use, their mind to sometimes whittle them out of certain situations. Because you can't have the villain get caught the first time him and the hero meet. It just doesn't
Right.
happen. There's always going to be a
Right.
moment where they maybe pass down a street, and he realizes, oh my God, that's the guy I'm looking for. And then he realizes, oh my God, that's the guy who's trying to stop me. And there's always going to be that point in anime where the hero and the villain meet too early before their major fight happens towards the end, or before their real meeting is supposed to happen, and the villain just has to weasel his way out of it. He has to be cunning. He has to know what to do in that sort of situation, and it comes back to he can't be an idiot. He can't just be like, oh, hey, I've seen you before. I know you're after me, man. So why don't you just try and cuff me right here, bro?
Yeah, or one of the things that bothers me as well is like certain anime villains, this whole idea of like they'll fight the protagonist
Mm-hmm.
and they'll like defeat them overwhelmingly, and then they'll be like, "You're not even worth my time to kill," and then
Right.
20 episodes later, the protagonist kicks their butt and their whole plan goes to shambles. It's like, okay, like don't do
Maybe
stupid stuff like that.
maybe I should have taken him a little bit more seriously.
Right. Like I hate when villains do that. It's like, no, if you have a master plan to take over the world and anyone poses threat to that, you should take them out immediately.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what they're going to turn into or what different circumstances are going to happen that could ultimately lead to your demise. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. And I think one of the things too as well when we are talking about, what makes a great anime villain, if he's got the brains, that's great. But he has to have, at least for me, he has to have a cool character design, because if he's not
Yeah.
somebody that like I can just recognize instantly, like he's like a little nerd with glasses on that looks just like all of his other lackeys, then what's the point? It's like, bro, you're just a regular guy. I mean, unless
Right.
that's the
Yeah.
premise. Unless that's the premise, it's supposed to be a guy behind, pulling the strings, kind of like in the Wizard of Oz. He's just hiding behind a curtain. But other than that, like most of the time, your villains have great character designs, just so that like when you see them, whether it's in a video like we make with the Anime Society, or any other anime videos you watch, or something on YouTube, or just a picture on the internet, as soon as you see it, you're like, oh, I know who that is. I know
Yeah.
exactly who that is, and I know what he did, and I know whether he's a good villain or a bad villain, and so to me, dude, the design has to be great, and one of my favorite designs of a villain, it seriously is like ever since I saw him in the anime, was Estarossa in
Yeah.
Seven Deadly Sins. It's like
Yeah.
not over the top complex, but when you see him, just like the way that they've got him built, his frame and his hair and just that he can do some damage.
Yeah.
He can do some damage, and like obviously they put the demon mark on him to show that he's a part of the demon clan. That's a part of the
Right.
design as well, and so that kind of lets you know that, oh, this is a bad dude. This is a really bad dude. So
Normally, normally the great villains have some kind of like trademark about their look as well, you know.
yeah, yeah,
It's like, for the different commandments and seven deadly sins, they all have like the demon mark,
hmm, yeah,
and that's kind of like a trademark of their group. You look at like Doflamingo, he has this like massive pink feathered coat, or
yeah,
like Crocodile has like the scar across his face,
hmm,
or you take someone like Obito and Naruto, he has the mask. It's like they all have a certain trademark that goes with them that makes them not only like easily recognizable, but they're memorable. Like
hmm,
you know what they look like, what they have, like maybe they have a
right,
trademark laugh or something,
yeah.
and the second that they start speaking, you know exactly who it is and what that entails for the protagonists in their group.
Yeah, that kind of plays into, I probably should have just combined these two, but I said it was a cool character design, but you also got to have a cool voiceover. You got to have a
Yeah.
great voiceover work, whether it is in sub or whether it's in dub, watching in, Japanese or in English. It's got to be fitting to who they're trying to portray themselves as. I don't want to see Estarossa in his build come out with a Mickey Mouse sounding voice. That's why I think it's been so hard for a lot of people. I know for you it's difficult why you don't like Dragon Ball Z in Japanese, is because Goku is voiced by a woman, and I know it's not the villain, but his voice kind of doesn't match him. It's
Right.
really high pitched and it doesn't match his build. Vegeta's fits him. It fits him perfectly. But
Right.
it just to me the voiceover has to match the build. It really does, and that goes.
Definitely.
And I'm gonna combine those two. I think that can go good for character design and voiceover. I'm just gonna put those both
Right.
together because I'm just basically gonna call it cool. He's gotta be
Yeah.
cool, man.
They
He's
gotta be
gotta
cool. They
be
have to have
cool.
some kind of yeah, they have to have like an aesthetic appeal, like not only their look, but also what they sound like. It has to be consistent. You don't want
Yeah.
an evil villain that has like a high pitched, squeaky, terrible, evil laugh.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they have to have something that makes them seem intimidating. Um, yeah, no, for sure. Another thing that I think, like we talked about them having brains, but they also can't be just like they can't be all brawn, no brains. I don't like villains who are all brains, no brawn. You know,
Right.
it's like to me that's it's a little bit more forgivable if you're all brains, no brawn, than it is all brawn, no brains. But I do like my villains to like, when push comes to shove, like they can use their lackeys and stuff to do
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But
Yeah.
when push comes to shove and they need to come in and they need to get in the action, I don't want them to get one shot. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like I want them to be really powerful. And this whole idea of them getting involved in the fight like
Mm-hmm.
strikes fear into your heart because you're like, holy crap, if this dude actually starts fighting, this is going to be crazy. Like, uh, trying to think of an example, like someone like Crollo from Hunter x Hunter,
Yeah.
right? Like, he doesn't do much for a long time when he's introduced,
He really
and
doesn't.
then he find like push comes to shove, and Kilua's dad and his grandpa show up, and he's able to fend both of them off without getting killed, you know? And then you're like, okay, dang, like this dude actually deserves to be the leader of this crime syndicate because he's more powerful than all the other people that he controls, you know?
Yeah.
He doesn't get his hands dirty unless he needs to, but if he does need to get his hands dirty, he can back it up.
He's the equivalent of like a mob boss. He's not always going to
Right.
be the one that handles the dirty work, but if someone barges into his front door, he's going to pull out the Tommy gun and be like, "All right, back up. I'm protecting everybody." It's just like a Scarface feel to him. He's
Right.
the master behind the scenes, but when push comes to shove, like I said, I'm gonna pull the Tommy gun out, and nobody's gonna be in the way of this blaster. Yeah,
Right.
I think it's something that they do have to be strong. You can't have a weak villain because then when the protagonist shows up, it's just like, bro, I'm gonna blow through you with ease.
Right.
There's like no anticipation, and there's no reason he should be the villain if he's not like physically strong. You
Yeah.
understand? Because then it's like why is it that only this hero can beat you, dude? If you're so weak, a monkey should be able to take you out. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to be
Right.
able to hold your own.
And also, like, it begs the question when, like, for example, if you have a villain who's his subordinates are stronger than him, it begs the question like, wait a second, why the
Yeah,
heck are they your subordinates if they
right.
can take you out?
You
And
blackmailing him? Ah,
it doesn't even necessarily mean that like, and when I say like physically strong, I don't necessarily mean like they're big, Arnold Schwarzenegger jacked and they're mega strong, they just have to
yeah,
be powerful. Like if your world is dependent on magic or something, they have to be a really good mage, or
right.
or even if they're like physically weak, they have to have some kind of ability that makes other people who are otherwise stronger than them, I guess in quotations, makes them think twice about crossing them, you
Right.
know?
Yeah, I think we've hit a lot of great topics right now on this. Do you have any more that you wanted to do? Because we've hit on the ones that I thought, or not topics, but main points on
Uh,
what makes a great
the
anime villain.
the one that I wanted to talk about was this is probably the last one, but it goes along with what we talked about earlier about tragic backstory,
Mm-hmm.
their ideology, their way of thinking. To me, a great anime villain when they finally clash with the protagonist, it can't only be about the physical. There has to be some kind of clash of ideologies or emotional reasons or psychological reasons that weigh in the battle that give it another dimension. Like you think of someone like Pain from Naruto,
Yes.
right? His ideology was fundamentally different from Naruto's,
Well,
and that
I was
played
gonna make a Naruto reference. I was gonna say same with like Obito's and Naruto's. That like
right.
any villain has got a completely different ideology than Naruto's.
Right. And the thing is, like you look at Pain in Naruto, and Pain, he was a villain, but he was one of those villains that you empathize with, that you're like,
Mhm.
okay, he doesn't want anyone to suffer. He doesn't want anyone in the world to feel pain. And so what's the best way to go about that? And to him, leaving it up to free will would never resolve the problem. As long as people have free will, as long as they live without fear of consequences or repercussions, they're going to do whatever they want. They're going to
Mhm.
terrorize, they're going to hurt people, they're going to steal, they're going to lie,
Yeah,
etc.
because
Whereas,
Pain had the same ideology as Obito, because Obito was the one that talked Pain, Nagato, and this is getting really deep, spoilers for everybody, but he talked to Nagato into obviously becoming Pain, and so
yeah,
the ideology was just that, let's bring the infinite Tsukiyomi up, and everybody just basically lives in this genjutsu. They live in this alternate reality. Like, you just take away
right.
everybody's free will, and
Well,
Naruto obviously thought, hell no, let everybody be able to make their choices, and let's do this peacefully.
I thought maybe I'm wrong, but I thought that Payne's idea was he was going to gather all of the tailed beasts, and then if he was the supreme ruler of all the tailed beasts, then he could
Oh yeah,
literally destroy a nation like with the snap of his fingers.
you're right. You're
So
right.
if
That
everyone
was
if
that was
everyone was
Pain's.
scared of
Yeah,
him, right? If everyone was scared of him and scared, like no one would wage war, because if you started a war, he
hmm,
would wipe your nation off the planet.
you're right. You're right.
So they lived
I
in
mixed in
constant fear.
Obito. I mixed in Obito into that because that was what Obito was wanting to do, so he could be
Right.
with Rin again. Obviously,
Yeah.
that's this is spoiler central for everybody that doesn't know what we're talking about right now. Just watch Naruto regardless. Anyways, but yeah, I remember you saying that as well, because that goes back to, when I said I like a plan within a plan. Well, see, that was Pain's plan, but really Obito had a plan within telling Pain, yeah, we can do that, because he wanted the
Right.
tailed beasts for the infinite Tsukiyomi. So that,
Right.
if there's layers to a villain, I feel like it really makes him better.
Definitely. Definitely. And that's why um and that's why, like I said, when a villain does have layers, then their clash with the protagonist is not only just a physical battle to see who's stronger or whatever,
Yes.
but there's more weight behind it. It's packing a lot more into their battle than
Right.
what you initially just see on the surface.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you even take, this is another Naruto example, but like when Kakashi and Obito fought, the
Hmm.
reason why their fight was so good was not only because the animation was amazing and the
Right.
fight was really cool, just like
Yes.
aesthetically,
Yes.
but it was also because you knew that they were best friends. Like they had this deep emotional tie together. They also had a stark contrast to their ideology and what they thought the best route was for the world to take at large.
Hmm.
And so you combine all of those factors, and then you combine the cool animation, the really cool powers, etc., and you get this absolute masterclass of an anime fight. And
Oh
so
yeah.
that's why I feel like the combination of factors is the layers of a villain. They all make them, if they have layers, that's what makes them truly fantastic.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and I think that's a great wrap up spot for today's episode. Uh, for those of you that enjoyed it, please leave a like. Get in the comments section. Let us know who your favorite anime villain is and why. Let's talk with it about it. We'll be in the comments section. We'll be scrolling through, seeing how everybody is. Also, if you aren't subscribed and you're enjoying the content, don't forget to subscribe. I'm not going to tell you to ring that bell, because I know sometimes it can get annoying if you it can get annoying when you hear people say ring that bell. But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
if you really enjoy the content and want to show a little bit of extra support, please subscribe as well. Again, though, this was just what we thought makes a great anime villain, and if, like we said, obviously get in the chat and tell us who your favorite anime villain is, and why. But maybe if you thought there's something else that we should have had in this video, or what you think makes a great anime villain, don't be afraid to get in the comments. Trust me, we pay attention to this. We know
For sure.
we know you guys are down there in the comment section. We'll be down there, and we'll have some banter with that as well. So with that, Jonah, you want to say anything as we are having closing remarks here?
Well, I don't know. Should we tell them? Should we give a warning on what our next topic is going to be, or should we keep it shrouded in mystery?
I'm all about cliffhangers. Call me Attack on Titan, I guess. I'm all about cliffhangers. And with that, we're going to bring the show to a close today. Thank you all for tuning into the Anime Society, and we will see you next time.
Peace.
Beat.